Today I've been gouging around Horse Corral Spring, doing some geoarchaeology to map some landforms to help us better understand and evaluate the archaeological record that's been documented here at the spring. I've been able to identify 4 basic landforms. We have the rim rock up high, rim rock and tableland that goes beyond it. The site spreads out onto that. Up there, that's an old surface. We have lithosols that are forming in place. We get a little dust contribution and things, but mostly it's an old, stable, flat-lying, cobbly, bouldery landform. You get rock rings, you get lithic scatters that have really good spatial integrity, but they have no depth. They have good spatial integrity because it's a stable landform. So things aren't moving around very much. They move a little bit over thousands of years, of course, but your spatial integrity of your assemblage is pretty good up there. Don't dig deep, map your surface stuff. You get some good information from there. You can help better understand how people were using the spring, maybe intercepting game that came into the water, things like that. So landform 1 is the rim rock, right? And when we have this really cool apron that comes off the rim rock, and that appears as a lobe or an apron, a sloping wedge that comes off the rim rock and extends down here to this flat-lying floodplain. That's a cobbly, active surface. Things are kind of being washed down on it, maybe have tectonically down-dropped a little bit. Again, it's an old landform. Not much potential for buried site, not even much potential for spatial integrity because things are active on it a little bit. So you have the landform. It looks like sagebrush here. It's kind of a lobe. It's cut by the spring. That extends down here to this flat-lying floodplain. This low-level sagebrush, a little cut here by this spring discharge gully. This surface is a young Holocene package. That's what we're interested in. Maybe we have buried archaeology in this young landform. But how old is it? It's one thing we don't know. It's difficult to tell. We don't have a stratigraphy in these gullies that cut through the floodplain. It would be nice to see material that we could radiocarbon date, charcoal, seeds, or what have you, that are part of the cultural record or even part of a depositional record that we can better understand when this floodplain was laid down. Was it laid down recently? Was it laid down 1,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago? We just don't know. It doesn't have good soil development. It doesn't seem to be a stable deposit. We get spring discharge moving on. We get alluvial and aeolian airfall additions to this floodplain. But it's the flat-lying, inset. It's the place we want to look for buried archaeology. When we better evaluate this site, we may want to take some time and look at subsurface deposits on this floodplain. You don't want to look for subsurface deposit on the rim rock. You don't want to look necessarily for subsurface deposit on the apron. It's this floodplain that we'd like to better understand how old it is and better understand the archaeology it might contain. And this is where the archaeology can help the geomorphology. We can use the archaeology to better understand the deposition of this floodplain. The 4th landform would be the spring itself. It forms a nice mound. It's a wet environment. We get groundwater discharging there, discharging along creases in the rim rock. We have a spring mound up high. We have a spring mound down low. We're getting discharge that occasionally comes down these now dry U-shaped little cut arroyos that come down through the floodplain. Those are difficult archaeological deposits because they tend to be turbated, they're wet, they're subject to movement, turbation, things like that. Not necessarily a place we might want to look for an archaeological record, but sometimes those spring mounds hold a nice pollen record. They can hold a phytolith record. You can get ecological information to understand more about the timing of the spring discharge, the timing of the spring habitation that might go then with the archaeological record that is here. So this is a really cool spot at Horse Corral Spring because we have those 4 landform groups that help us understand a little bit about the archaeology here. We have the rim rock. We have the broad apron that extends down the valley along that rim rock. We have the floodplain that extends from the base of the apron to the apron on the opposite rim rock. These 4 landforms, the rim rock, the apron, floodplain, the spring, they occur quite often in similar contexts from on this rim rock landscape from 395 to the west all the way over the Smoke Creek Desert just east of here. We've got Buffalo Meadows over here, Rixie Flat drains into Buffalo. And so understanding Horse Corral Spring helps us understand Porcupine Spring, helps us understand Spur Spring just around the corner here, and we can use this each time we get to similar landscapes throughout this study area that we have around the Twin Peaks from 395, Smoke Creek Desert. And it lets us better evaluate those archaeological resources that are often focused on these water sources, springs in an arid environment. Super cool, really nice to be able to look at this. Thanks for joining us today. I'm going to gouge around some more. Take it easy.